So when you go into data.world, one of the first things that you notice, if you haven't seen sort of a demo of our catalog before, is that it's a very different enterprise software experience than you may be used to. First and foremost, we are a cloud-hosted solution with both multi-tenant and single-tenant options, where we do all the hosting and the management for you. So there's no worry about sort of installing things on servers. There's no worry about sort of the update rate, right? We're constantly pushing up updates and changes and new features, so you automatically get access to the latest and greatest with just a refresh of the browser. And it's very much designed with a social and collaborative experience in mind. This here is the home feed, where it's basically set up a lot like you might see like Facebook, right? Where you've got a set of recommendations and a set of information being displayed to you, so that you can browse serendipitously across the people that you follow, the organizations that you're a part of, and always within the security of what you're allowed to see, right? Because as part of this social experience is also sort of the governance and the security controls that ensure that you only see the things that you should. On the left-hand side, you can see these different groups like DemoCorp Analyst, DemoCorp Marketing. These are all different groups, and to continue that Facebook analogy, you can kind of think of these as like Facebook groups, right? You've got different subsets of people and information where there's certain content that only should be relevant to those particular users. There's certain collaboration that only makes sense for those particular users. And each one of these has a dedicated feed where, for example, I can see what Rachel Williams is doing, one of our data scientists, as a fellow analyst in the analyst department, right? And here you can see an example of a page, a social page, where everyone has followers and following and bookmarks, and all of the different data sets that they care about the most and use the most can be displayed. So first of all, you can see how this is a very social experience. Second of all is more the browsing experience, right? And so here I'll open up this left-hand side nav for a second. Similar to a traditional data catalog or a catalog in like a library, right? We want to give you that ability to sort of have a browse experience as well. And so you can do things like browse by data, browse by analysis, like dashboards or projects or use cases, as well as glossary terms, right? Things like calculations or metrics or different things that are key for you to be able to then be related to those different tables and columns and dashboards, but represent higher level concepts. And we'll show examples of a glossary item in a second. And then obviously things like notifications, right? You want to know when people are requesting access to things, right? There's a whole agile governance aspect. You want to know when people are suggesting changes to things. And so that all has to do with notifications and workflow, which is integrated into data.world. But let's imagine here that Bob is an analyst, and he's particularly trying to answer a business question around shipping profitability. And if there's anything sort of we can do in terms of some new promotions or some maybe even free shipping to become more competitive around our shipping. But we got to make sure that we can handle that as a business. And one of the things that I'm very interested in as part of that process is to understand Lineage so that I can know the context of that data. And maybe if there's problems with dashboards or problems with reports, to be able to very quickly figure out who to talk to resolve some of those issues. And so what I'll do is I'll actually go and type in order, because order data is what I want to sort of base this shipping profitability analysis off of. And you can see here I get into our search interface. Because I chose such a high-level term, what's going to get hit a lot in that kind of instance are especially things like glossary terms. Because usually when you're searching for something relatively simple, what you're trying to do is gain an understanding of what does this even mean in our business, and therefore what pieces of data should I leverage. And you can see that I could easily filter by things like, let me see only approved assets, let me see assets that are only owned by specific people or have specific levels of confidentiality, or filter even by, different asset types such as data or, even comments. What are people saying about order information? I'll go ahead and click order, which is the first item here, and I'll be able to see and learn a lot more about what order means in our organization. So part of Lineage at a very high level is also sort of the lineage of meaning, the lineage of abstract representation, right? And so at our company, order really represents a purchase transaction where somebody has actually committed to the purchase in an online or electronic channel. So they've hit that buy now button. And it's important to then disambiguate that from other representations or meanings for this. So things like a delivered order or paid order or fulfilled order, right? So first of all, creating that clarity and allowing me to know that this is the concept that I want to center around, and what I want to sort of find sort of data lineage and information lineage around is a first key, right? And you can see that all sorts of different metadata can be associated with any of these pages, whether it's a glossary or a data table. So for example, here you can see we have a calculation field. We have a PII field that lets me know that there is often PII associated with orders, and so on and so forth. I can also see relationships associated with this. And so I can see, for example, that there's some Tableau dashboards that are using and are related to this business term, as well as data. But the next step here is really I want to find data, and I want to actually understand more about the data lineage. And so what I'll do is I'll click on retail order here, and I can see that this is a table. It is in our Snowflake data warehouse. Similarly to that previous page, I have all sorts of metadata available. And all this metadata is customizable by our enterprise customers. So these can be tailored to your specific sort of informational and governance needs. I can learn about sort of all the different columns and information that is a part of this table and very clearly see that, that this is the information that I want to take advantage of. I even can see little indicators of what the quality might be of some of these columns. So for example, I see this little red dot here by event ID. And I can click that and I can see that, okay, interesting, there's actually a warning here that there's an inconsistent application. So you can see how data quality actually kind of comes to play here in data governance. But now what I want to do is I want to understand that lineage of where this came from, right? And so if I scroll down here, I can see this high-level lineage view where it was automatically populated based on our integration to this system and leveraging Manta under the hood to calculate some of that more detailed lineage. And so I can see that upstream, we've got some different tables that are being combined together to create some downstream views. And so this retail order is actually a refined view of some of these different upstream systems that is then being leveraged. And we can see that because it's sort of on the right-hand side here, that it actually is a more distilled view that is more of a downstream view that probably means it's been sort of normalized or denormalized in some way. It's been made a little bit more analytics ready. Maybe it's been joined with a couple other things. And it's clear that based on these two dashboards that this particular table is being leveraged actively in different kinds of analysis. And the first types of sort of lineage that makes sense for me to explore may be to actually explore those two downstream analyses to kind of understand what they are and what they represent. And so if I do something like click product here, I can actually learn a little bit more about this dashboard, even click to access it directly in Tableau itself. I can see a preview of it and so on and so forth. Now imagine, we talked about some of those different lineage use cases. So obviously this high-level lineage provides me a good understanding of sort of some of the downstream usage, gives me a lot of that sort of source and provenance understanding. But imagine I looked at one of those dashboards and it was broken. Or imagine that I'm a little bit worried about the fact that it's got some PII associated with it, and I want to understand sort of how that's being leveraged and whether or not I need to contact our security team or our compliance team to get additional permissions. Or imagine I took off my analyst hat and now I have a different hat on now. Maybe I'm one of the owners of those upstream systems, or I'm on our security and governance teams. I may have some different questions that I really need to introspect on. And so in order to answer some of these more detailed questions, I really need a more detailed view of lineage to power that. And so one of the things that we do is that we automatically generate deep links into a technical lineage view, which is powered by Manta. And I'll actually show that here where you can see the technical lineage line item that's been automatically generated. And I click view in technical lineage view. And if my session didn't expire, that would automatically just pop me right in. And now it takes me directly to that exact same table within Manta so that I can now do much more detailed introspection on the lineage of this, right? And start to click in and start to understand about these fields and about this table and these systems in a lot more detail. But before I do that, I actually want to hop back over to the presentation and show off a Manta slide and then kind of hand it off to Ernie to introduce a little bit more about Manta and start to kick off a more detailed demo of the power of this technical lineage capability that really is under the hood here and is exposed through this really capable UI.